And of 1923, 100,000 marks. And in the same year, billions and billions of marks. Until we reach the astronomical figure of 4 billion marks to the dollar. Inflation cheats the Allies, but it also brings ruin to Germany. Hitler has by now become a secret agent. In other words, a spy in the service of the Reichswehr. Hitler has been entrusted with the task of watching the activities of a new political party, the German Workers' Party. While still in the pay of the army, he first joins and then takes the leadership of a very organization he was paid to spy upon.
In Munich here there's a real culture of beer making and beer drinking, and it obviously made for a convivial atmosphere for any speaker. Not only were these places big enough to house a crowd of sometimes as large as 3,000, the ready sale of alcohol obviously created the kind of atmosphere and the kind of warmth of reception for the speaker. There was, of course, a far more sinister edge to what was developing here in the 20s with Adolf Hitler. It was here that the German Socialist Workers' Party really took shape. As Hitler began his round of the very famous beer hall speeches, the Hofbrauhaus is among the most famous, and it was here that Hitler came to speak. In the pages of Mein Kampf, Hitler described how he felt that the Social Democrats were actually an intimidatory force. He formed the view that any intimidation had to be met with equal intimidation. And Hitler would start his speeches very quietly, hardly raising his voice, and build up into a crescendo of arm-waving and gestures, and hysteria that it was very, very effective. It sounds theatrical and over the top, but in reality, Hitler was very experienced. Managed to form this huge country in his blood. To seize power by force of arms. In the famous beer hall putsch which took place here in Munich, Hitler decided to gamble everything on being able to seize his objective by surprise. He decided that the time was right for an armed coup de main which took the form of the Munich putsch. The putsch itself was a bit of a hodgepodge affair, and they originally seized the prisoners as planned, but thereafter no one seemed to have a clear and coherent idea of what to do. There was no proper chain of command, with the result that the army barracks were able to mobilise. Next day, Hitler and his supporters decided that the best thing to do was to march here to the Odeonsplatz and stage a rally which would feature one of Hitler's trademark speeches. They came down the street behind me here, and they were confronted by a cordon of armed policemen. Shots were exchanged, a number of the putschists fell to the ground dead, and effectively that was the end of the putsch. In the short term, the kingdoms that were established very quickly after Hitler assumed power. In fact, this place was constructed while there was still a coalition government in power. It's a very sobering and quite a harrowing experience, as I can imagine. Something like 250,000 people were incarcerated here. Dachau wasn't what is now known as a death camp. It's estimated that approximately 30 to 40,000 people perished here. Most of that was a result of disease and starvation. There were, of course, the usual scenes of incredible brutality. If you came through those gates, you lost all your civil rights. There was a popular line at the time which was, "Please make my lips dumb, that I to Dachau may not come." It was widely known that the concentration lager had begun to appear. The purpose of that time was to stifle trade unionism and to stifle intellectuals and opponents of the state. It was some time yet before the Jewish Holocaust, which really began to gather pace from 1940 onwards. Originally, this was the place where anyone who was likely to be an enemy of the state was incarcerated. People were brought here on the premise that this was a short-term measure. The concentration camps initially were actually welcomed by the general public. They were seen as a new way of instilling discipline into society, because when you were brought here, it was seen as a short-term measure where work was going to be used in order to modify your behavior. You would be worked hard, and in the course of that hard work, you would learn how to be a good member of the Third Reich. There was no prospect of trial. People who were brought here came here really as a temporary measure, and for that reason it was argued there was no need for a trial, because you were only here for a short term. Of course, that didn't turn out to be the case, and as mortality kicked in, it was discovered that the special treatment, which people were singled out for, inevitably meant execution. This was a place where executions could be carried out, bodies could be cremated, and the ashes shoveled into a local ditch, and no one would be able to worry them. The main square in Frankfurt, which still has something of the 1930s. Most places have long since gone, and what we're left with is the building behind me, which is a rat house. Hitler came here and stood on the balcony behind me and addressed a throng of people in this square. Today it's a placid tourist trap, and at the time it was obviously absolutely thronged with people who were celebrating the Third Reich. Hitler has always gave one of his impassioned speeches from the balcony up there. And it was in towns like Frankfurt where he found a great deal of the support. He was a frequent visitor to the city and spoke to huge audiences in the various complexes around. It's important to realise that when we talk about Adolf Hitler, his agenda was very complex and covered a number of competing ideas. Nationalism obviously was a huge influence on him. Socialism was part of the mix, hence the name National Socialist. But he was also racially motivated and militarily motivated. So it's a very bad combination of factors that are at work there. And the inevitable result was the dehumanization that we saw under the This is a typical structure that Hitler and Speer between them decided should represent the Third Reich. It was flanked by a huge run of columns on either side. Those columns have now gone, but this kind of very neoclassical brutalist style was what Hitler and Speer aimed for.
The swastika of the Nazi Party. It is gone today, blasted from the earth, but the memory of its evil genius remains.
Famous footage of the swastika being blown up on the Zeppelin field is one of the defining images of World War II.
It's exactly the kind of building that you would expect to find in a Third Reich site such as this. Very stark, very ordered, and this is not a building that's dedicated to freedom of the will or freedom of the individual. As Reichenstein described the film, it's very much a triumph of the will. It's about imposing ideas on other people. There is nothing here which is designed to be soft or round or in any way romantic. It's neoclassical. It's exactly the kind of building you would expect Hitler and Tibia to create between them. It still shows considerable signs of damage from the war. We can see shell strikes and shrapnel damage all around. It was up here in his beloved mountains that Hitler felt most at peace. He came to Berchtesgaden and to Obersalzberg, which is above me here. As soon as he had the opportunity, Hitler made his home here in Berchtesgaden. It was where he felt spiritually at ease. The trees and the mountains reminded him of his carefree days when he and his friend Kubizek.
Oh, there's no such thing as Supreme Mana Pot?
Outside Linz. Behind me, to my left here, you can see the extension to the railway station that Hitler had built in the 30s. It was here at the Berchtesgaden that he would invite many of his most important guests, and Neville Chamberlain famously came here in the prelude to the Second World War. Much later, for his 50th birthday, Hitler was presented with the magnificent property at Obersalzberg, which took him even higher up into the mountains and is now commonly referred to as the Eagle's Nest, although that's not a term that was used at the time of the Third Reich. All the traces of Hitler's house are long gone. The Allies took a decision that they would eradicate every last place of the Führer.
Sorry, my hand soon.
And his name was certainly
Go to the bathroom.
celebrated around here. Interestingly, the Eagle's Nest, the house he received for his 50th birthday, is now increasingly a tourist attraction. It seems that people want to understand something of the cataclysmic events that took place in the 20th century. And I think that's fairly understandable. here that the Indians were called twice daily.
Stream chat.
This is the small little game that's young surviving people spending here under guard from guards in the tower of the shooting. This is the prison block at Mauthausen. It is very typical of literally thousands of sites like this all over Germany and the Third Reich. And as the Hitler's empire expanded, so too would be oppressing edifices. The SS and the Gestapo, of course, were completely out of control and answered to no one. There was no court of appeal or judge in order to get information or
Gestapo.
the same thing. They would beat the victims and then put them into their cells and then with broken bones to lie and wallow in self-pity. This was the real mechanism of how Hitler planned to maintain his power. He would throw his opponents into places like this and simply lock them up. Nacht and Nebel, night and fog was the concept, whereby people would simply disappear into the system and would never be seen again. To this spot behind me that Hitler was born in June of 1940. He was fresh from the successful signing of the armistice in the forest of Tibia. He came here with a small to celebrate what to many appeared like a crowning victory. That was on Hitler's mind at the time when he made the trip here to the Eiffel Tower was whether or not to proceed with a victory parade through Paris. And it's quite telling really that Hitler took the decision not to go ahead with the parade because at the time he justified that decision by in the words that the job was not yet finished. I think Hitler knew that although it may appear to be the high water mark, it was by no means a conclusive victory here in the West. It was a stunning victory, the forces of both the British Expeditionary Force and the French National Army. But it wasn't, of course, a complete victory. An English Channel stood between Hitler and the UK, as we all know. He was never able to bridge that gap. So this is the exact spot where Hitler came to pass with his triumph. He stood at the low wall behind me and reflected on the tower. He was accompanied by a film crew and the film photographer squatted down on his haunches to get the famous shot of Hitler and the tower. He was also accompanied by Albert Speer, his famous architect, because Hitler still considered himself an architect at heart. And he lived in the to this into for Hitler, one of the most important buildings in Paris, a passion by 1940. He really wanted to spend a considerable amount of time. He was sufficiently astute to know that the version wasn't by any means. He considered finishing the job because Britain stood alone and was very much on its knees. But onto the street had come this other maverick, Winston Churchill, and Churchill was equally dogged and determined to achieve an aim at all costs. And he was a gambler in his quest to defeat Adolf Hitler, and it's thankful for all of us that Churchill succeeded.
General Vagon had told Hitler from, you know, that Hitler knows that he will have to break up his mind following the war. He will stand up to him, or Europe will be free. The life of the world may move forward, withdrawn, unrequited. Then the whole world will seek to resist. Let us down. We are ourselves. If the
what happened in 1914. The Germans were able to enjoy a huge
fucking missile on fucking
English life and plan whatever it was. By 1940, they were in command of all of continental Europe, including the Greek islands, as they were already established as so that may appear to be the military highlight for Hitler, but politically, Hitler lost the once the Allies had taken the decision to accuse Hitler with military force, although things were very good, ultimately the initiative had gone. And this was a hugely significant event. On the Eastern Front, an unbroken string of Soviet
Yeah.
There had been the attempt on Hitler's life. So by August 1944, it was clear that it was only a matter of time before the fall of the National Socialist regime. And the last remnants of the Wehrmacht attempted to disentangle themselves from Paris. There was a popular uprising which saw some bloody street fighting, and the city itself was sufficiently free to the French troops were open arms.
Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, and Greece. The next Russian move will be into the German heartland. German troops bravely face the massive Russian attacks with the inevitable results. When troops are outmanned and outgunned and hungry and cold, you'll never see a goat step in the snow. Disaster follows disaster. The Allies storm across France and double their aerial assault on Germany itself. German troops are surrendering now by the thousands. The GIs pull down the swastika and run up the stars in space. British and Americans to the draw along the Elbe and let the Russians take Berlin. Hitler sees the handwriting on the wall. He must go to Berlin to turn the rout into victory or fall in the attempt. And so, he and Tibia go there and install themselves in the Chancellery. There he screams for greater sacrifices.
is the memorial to those who suffered the genocide which was perpetrated against the Jewish people. It's a very evocative and very
Sorry.
emotional experience because, as you can see, the represents a form of violence or silence and unconscious. Of course, the people who suffered the regime weren't afforded the decency of a burial coffin. So it's fitting that now there is at least something here that records how these but it's just this regime under Hitler's regime. Throughout Nazi-occupied Europe, terrible atrocities were perpetrated in Norway, in Denmark, in France, in Greece, in Malta. Throughout Europe, we saw monstrous crimes committed, and the Jewish Holocaust is only one part of it. It's quite hard to comprehend that all of these deaths weren't actually equivalent to the whole of the crime. The crimes were so enormous and so monstrous that for example, the French population, who had suffered terribly and with people being taken into slave labour and transported here in Germany to work on behalf of the Reich. Should have had the courage of his convictions to stand up and recount it. The dignity of the child and to surrender, especially
racist views were being spouted, which
was born at 6:30 a.m. on April the 20th, 1889, in 2 His mother, Clara Holtz, was the third. This marriage was a cause for conflict when he was her cousin 20 years older. The troubles of her married life made Clara bestow all her love in her frailest child. In spite of his liability to idleness, her mother's health had the first stage of his education in school at Lombok's Benedictine Monastery. In 1898, the family moved to the city of Linz, a town Hitler always regarded as his birthplace. There, he entered the Royal Schule where he carried some of his studies out, showing small construction languages and mathematics. His father, alone, was the son of an American and changed his family name to which was an influence for guilty tailors, a man his mother married not long before. He wasn't just an officer, he had a liking for friends and parents.
For fuck's sakes!
He had to live in several border towns. He was cold and domineering and beat hard his son Adolf, a good-for-nothing dimwit. His bad relationship with his father and his clumsiness in making friends turned Adolf into a self-centered person, rooting the dream of becoming a famous stage actor. He registers in the Catholic Arts and Crafts School in Paris, but has to quit because of pneumonia that gets him after his father's sudden death. At 14 years old, he enters the Sunday school, where he gets into troubles with his teachers because of his defiant attitude. In 1905, he decides to quit school and fully devote himself to painting. He draws quite a lot of paintings, stacking them up in the house with his mother and younger sister, Polly. In 1907, he tries to make it to a fine arts school, but he is rejected in the admissions process.
Fuck.
Then he meets people who admire Germany's proud attitude towards the He moves to Europe in 1913, evading the military service in Austria when a medical court declared him not fit for the army. In this city, he lives as a carpenter and construction. All of a sudden comes about what he calls his liberation. The official declaration makes him officer of the German army on August 3, 1914. Hitler feels freed from years of frustration. Taken to the front, he joins the assault troops of the 1st Bavarian Infantry Regiment. His survival ability and his forceful manner make him a respected soldier among cadets and officers. He fights on the Western Front, due to his brave 1916, he was wounded in one leg. Therefore, being withdrawn. Once recovered from Druid's hospital in Berlin, he goes back to the front where he is newly wounded by toxic gas at the end of 1918. He was a part of the Iron Cross Revolution. Then Hitler is taken to the Passowa Hospital in Pomerania, where he undergoes several operations after a temporary loss of sight.
Shit. 4.56.
He passionately lives the news of the Russian Revolution and his family as Germans humiliated. 1919. The post-war police corporation, as well as the war, far from the respect of his mates, humiliated and deeply hurt by his crime, he finds a country in violent war. The German people face defeat. Riots and street brawls turn German cities into battlefields, where the political parties try to take over. Assigned to quarters in Europe, waiting for him into service, he endeavors to analyze the reasons of Germany's decline. He writes hundreds of pages about the Bolshevik Revolution he deeply hates. In his chats with his veteran mates, they work over the party's regime that he deems the source of all evils, and over the expanse of the non-world. Then, the Aryan race was equally superior. His connections in the army provide him as an informer for the German government. He will have to spot the revolutionary groups in the field of coexist, focusing on quickly growing parties. Hitler gets in touch with a group of right-wing anti-Jew radicals called the Workers' Brigade, founded at the end of the war by the locksmith Anton Drexler. Stirred by what he sees and hears, he believes all this was wrong in his life. He joins the party on September the 14th. His 6th year with the registration number 555. He attends meetings, and his populist eloquence is well noticed. Hitler enthusiasm, telling the people what they are eager to hear. All his reasoning and theories of the evils pervading the Great Germany are cheered by the increasingly ample group of people secretly gathered to hear the covenant speech, spreading through the world. Building on Hindenburg's words that the Great War was lost because of the government's enemies stabbed him in the back, Hitler points out that this treason was brought about by Jews, socialists, and communists in order to destroy the great German nation. He argues that it is easy for the German population to control the results of the Druid crusade. From the outside and from the inside, the enemies want to sweep the great Germany from the face of the earth. Socialist is the Communism is forcefully spreading among the Germans while unemployment and hunger develop. For Hitler, this is chaos, and he feels that his task is to unite all the disappointed people. February the 20th, 1920, he makes a speech, for the first time surrounded by swastikas. In bold humanity, by worshipping the sun, of his party. In April of the same year, he quits the army and becomes incited street activity. He organized meetings to be surrounded by people who These groups subsidize propaganda activities, including Volkischer Beihilfen. Bankers and industrialists see in Hitler the best protection against the rising communism and socialism. Bit by bit, middle classes fearing communist ideals feel attracted to him. Persuaded of being chosen by the divine providence, he states that being a leader is to attract the masses, and nobody does it with his idol. 1921, the party takes lead. The Workers' German National Socialist Party, NSDAP, better known as the Nazi. Thanks to the support of veterans and still-serving officers, he organizes the Sturmbannwagen, or SA, the party's assault troops. Wearing army uniforms, the brown shirts are trained to terrorize their political rivals and act as a security service for the leaders' duties. With these assault troops, Hitler becomes a minor but dangerous political figure in Germany. He relies on the support of officers, among which Druid On January the 11th, 1923, claiming that Germany does not comply with the payments as stated in the Treaty of Versailles, French and Belgian troops were in the western industrial areas. Facing British complaints and legal nations, the French withdraw. Previously to that time, the German facilities and taking greatest responsibility and stable. Hitler feels that the German pride is being violated. On November the 8th, after a meeting he leads his assault troops through the streets of Munich, following in the steps of his esteemed Mussolini to try a coup against the Bavarian government. The National Revolution has begun, he declares. But the hesitating attitude of his military supporters and the police baffle his attempt. Hitler is arrested, and the government orders the party to be dissolved. In February 1924, the Führer-to-be, 35 years old, is brought to trial on a charge of treason and is sentenced to 5 years in prison. Thanks to his political connections, he serves only 8 months in a cell in prison, from where he is discharged on parole on December the 20th this same year. While in prison, he dictates to his friend and party comrade Rudolf Hess his book Mein Kampf, My Struggle. In this book, he tells an autobiographical story, mixing the anti-Semitism and the greatness of the Aryan race with his plans for the future and the enslavement of the nation's citizens. The book is a success among his followers across Europe. In a gesture meant to show his lack of interest for the world of goods, Hitler bequeaths to the world all benefits obtained from it. 1920. Once free, he joins the party and takes the leadership over February 27, 1924. Being in prison has made him change his strategy. He will reach power through democratic ways, without giving up his ruthless ground force. They are the party's strong and troops for many veterans.
this group run several elections. This political program, founded on the idea that political groups supporting the Jews and destroying the innocence of the Germans, does not continue with the workers. In April, supported by the right wing democratic parties, Gadizer is elected president of the group. He is a moderate, but nevertheless swears to preserve the Republican Constitution. 1936, Germany begins to get under the pressure of the rule of the centrist chancellor, the Druid. The workers' class feels complicit, but the upper class has grown up Hitler tries to relaunch his retains his esteemed Mussolini state and establishes a day of party. Feast power in June of the same year and to held in Nuremberg in August 1927. In the elections of May 1928, the Nazi Party won 100,000 votes. That is 12 seats out of the 490 seats in the Reichstag. It's a minor force. The new social democratic chancellor, is making the outspoken toward our global excesses and forbids him to speak in public. For this reason, he briefly withdraws from politics, moving to the Bavarian Alps. He meets his sister, Geli Raube, and falls in love with her. 1929. The 1929 Great Depression is a hard blow to the economic recovery. But it's the chance that he was as a speaker attracts thousands of
Powerful shape-shifting systems.
the chameleon.
I'm gonna lead you right to her front door.
He mixes socialist and nationalist principles and promises to restore Germany's greatness. Jobs, a fair distribution of wealth, and more nationalism supported by a powerful party. Swing to success. Our race's greatness is in the blood of our friends, not in those of the Jews and anti-patriotic communists. Looks like these make people think he is a man with a destiny. His followers increase, therefore, and the party picks up 178.
How's this for dry throat? I need to
Dealing
drink
with
water.
millions of unemployed workers and sinking into economic depression, the government seeks support to fix the situation. Hitler and his brown shirts take advantage, kindling riots and demonstrations. Meanwhile, the Communist Party scares the whole business class. In fact, both Both are planning the same objective: to take up the concept with public funds. Overcome by the events, in March 1930. The centrist Heinrich takes over. When the parliament refuses his approval, he asks old President Hindenburg to call for elections. Adolf Hitler's Nazi party had 6,500,000 votes, which means 107 seats in the Reichstag. It's a giant step for small ultra-right party with just 12 representatives up to then. It becomes the second most important German party and is fully represented in all the social layers of the On September the 18th, 1931,
Got to level 133. Fuck yeah, bros.
who wished to become an opera singer, is found dead at home with a shot in her chest. The police take it as a suicide. This event, along with his mother's death, will have an effect for the rest of Hitler's life. Hindenburg, the military legend of World War I, presides over an increasingly disintegrated Republic of Weimar at 84 years old. He is overruled by the state's crisis. Chancellor Druid and his policy to undergo a severe harassment and destroy operation at the hands of the Nazis. This operation increases the pressure on the president, who is prepared to change Druid for his demo-Christian friend Franz von Papen.
Sorry.
1946. Presidential elections are held in March 1932. The Liberal, Christian, Social Democrat, and Communist parties, fearing a victory of the Nazi leader, asked Hindenburg to run again for the presidency. The old officer gets 53% of the votes. 18 million Germans walking at the head of the nation. 11 million have chosen Hitler. That's 37%. 5 million voted for Ernst Kalman. The communist candidate only reached 10%. Hitler's political rivals take a fight for good results, but the Nazi party deepens in the idea that democracy is a bad thing from the French Revolution, the most hated country. It's the German people's mistake to choose an aged military and strong and charismatic leaders like Hitler. The brown shirts are not long to react. Their violent assaults against members of political parties incompatible with their theories drive the government to forbid their activities on April the 13th, 1932. Some weeks later, the Nazis gained the majority in the elections held in 5 federal states. The National Parliament is dismissed in June, and new elections are held in July. The presidential election was a failure, but this time he is determined not to let it happen again. In rage, he starts the violent party's machinery to ensure the votes. His security forces, newly empowered by the government, launch a wave of bullying, terrorizing the citizens and hushing up those who don't share in the Nazi idea. In the parliamentary elections on July the 31st, the Nazi Party gets 230 seats, which mean almost 14 million votes. It falls short of the absolute majority, but becomes the most voted party in Germany. In spite of that, the president and other political groups keep in charge Chancellor von Hitler. Hitler's attempt to get hold of absolute power is a failure. Outwitted by the Nazi harassment against the state and the parliamentary political leaders, Hindenburg submits to Hitler, whom he despises, calling him the corporal, the charge of vice-chancellor on August the 13th. But Hitler refuses. He wants power and no medal. The government is now completely paralyzed, and the possibilities of reaching an agreement to restore the state are absolutely non-existent due to the persistent boycott of the Nazi representatives. At that, a new election of the Reichstag is called on November the 6th of the Many Nazi voters are scared of what Hitler may do if he gets to power, and they withdraw from him. Therefore, the National Socialists lose 34 seats, still being the strongest party with their 196 representatives in Parliament of 491 seats. On November the 22nd, President Hindenburg is persuaded by his own son, the State Secretary Meisner, and his good friend von Papen, to proffer the chancellorship to Hitler. The president meets the Nazi leader. The mutual contempt of war